independent and unstoppable, but could your masculine energy be silently sabotaging your femininity and relationships? Meet Jessica. The weight of the world always seemed to rest on her shoulders. As the oldest of 8 siblings, she was the one who held things together after their father passed away. Every day, she fought tooth and nail to keep the family afloat, juggling multiple jobs while trying to raise her siblings. She didn't have time for herself. There was no room for softness or vulnerability in her life. But lately, something felt off. She noticed that no matter how hard she tried, the men she was attracting were either emotionally unavailable or just not the right fit. They didn't respect her the way she needed to be respected. The deeper she dug into her work, the more distant and drained she felt. She couldn't shake the feeling that her fierce independence was starting to isolate her. Jessica began to wonder, is it me? Was there something about her energy that was pushing people away? She began to question everything she thought she knew about herself. Was she too strong? Too controlling? Was her relentless drive, the thing that made her successful, also the thing keeping her from finding true love and happiness? It wasn't until one fateful conversation with a close friend that Jessica realized she might be unknowingly tapping into more masculine energy than she realized. Her friend said, "You've got so much masculine energy, sis. You're exhausting yourself trying to do everything on your own. What about letting some of that go?" That hit Jessica hard. She knew her mother raised her to be strong, but could this have been the reason her love life was falling apart? Now, I want you to ask yourself, could you relate to Jessica's struggle? Are you unknowingly tapping into too much masculine energy in your own life? Today, let's uncover some signs that might just be holding you back from attracting the love and balance you deserve. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you want more tips on how to balance your energy and embrace your femininity. Radiant Rebels, it's time to unlock the power of both your masculine and feminine energy. Sign 1, always in hustle mode, no time for rest. Radiant Rebels, let's be real, society has convinced us that being constantly on the grind is the ultimate flex. But at what cost? If you're always chasing the next goal, working nonstop, and feeling guilty whenever you take a break, that's a clear sign you're leaning into masculine energy. Jessica lived in this cycle for years. She believed rest was a luxury she couldn't afford. But deep down, she was exhausted. She thought pushing through the fatigue made her strong, but all it did was drain her. The worst part? She started to lose touch with herself, her softness, her joy, her ability to simply be. Burnout, stress, and feeling emotionally disconnected aren't badges of honor. They're signs that something is out of balance. Feminine energy thrives in flow, creativity, and ease. Rest isn't weakness, it's power. It's the space where you recharge, reconnect, and allow life to come to you instead of constantly chasing it. If this resonates with you, take this as your sign to slow down. Give yourself permission to rest, to indulge in softness, to lean into your feminine energy without guilt. And if you know someone who needs this reminder, share this video with them. Sign 2, struggling with collaboration. Have you ever found yourself thinking, if I don't do it, it won't get done right? Do you hesitate to ask for help because you feel like you have to prove you can handle everything on your own? That's masculine energy taking the lead. Jessica was the definition of self-sufficiency. She carried the weight of her family, her career, and her responsibilities without ever leaning on anyone. She wore her independence like armor. But that armor was heavy, and it isolated her. She didn't realize that always being in solo warrior mode was pushing people away, both in friendships and relationships. Feminine energy is collaborative. It invites connection, trust, and support. When you let others in, you don't lose power, you gain ease. You create space for softness, for love, for the kind of relationships that feel effortless instead of exhausting. Start paying attention to how you approach teamwork. Do you resist collaboration? Do you see vulnerability as a risk instead of a strength? If so, it might be time to shift. Ask for help. Allow others to contribute. Lean into your softness. It's not weakness, it's magnetic. Sign 3. Disconnected from your intuition. Radiant rebels, have you ever had a gut feeling about something but ignored it, only to regret it later? Maybe you felt something was off in a relationship, but you brushed it aside because logic told you otherwise. Or you had a dream, a calling, but you convinced yourself to play it safe instead. That quiet inner voice? That's your feminine energy speaking. And if you're constantly doubting, overanalyzing, or silencing it, you're leaning too far into masculine energy. Jessica lived by logic, structure, and facts. She prided herself on making calculated decisions. But over time, she realized something was missing. She had no idea how to trust herself. She second-guessed her emotions, dismissed her gut instincts, and relied solely on what made sense rather than what felt right. And because of that, she found herself in situations that drained her energy, jobs that didn't fulfill her, relationships that felt off, opportunities she let slip away. Feminine energy is deeply intuitive. It knows before the mind does. It guides you toward the right people, the right choices, and the life that actually aligns with you. The more you trust it, the stronger it becomes. So start listening. That inner knowing? It's never wrong. Sign 4. Finding it hard to express emotions. Have you ever caught yourself saying, "I don't have time to be emotional," or "I just deal with it and move on"? If expressing how you truly feel feels like a battle, that's a sign you're operating more in masculine energy. Jessica was the master of holding it all together. She believed emotions were a distraction, something to be controlled. If she felt hurt, she swallowed it. If she was overwhelmed, she powered through. But inside, she felt emotionally numb. No one truly knew her because she never let anyone see beyond her strength. Feminine energy thrives in emotional depth. It allows you to be open, vulnerable, and connected, not just with others but with yourself. When you suppress emotions, you don't avoid them, you just bury them, and eventually, they come out in ways you don't expect: stress, resentment, or even physical exhaustion. Start paying attention to how you handle emotions. Do you let yourself feel them, process them, and express them? Or do you shut them down? Being in touch with your emotions isn't a weakness. It's power. It's the key to deeper connections, a lighter heart, and a life that actually feels good. Sign 5. Overcommitting and proving your worth. Radiant rebels, do you ever feel like you're constantly doing the most just to prove yourself? Saying yes when you really want to say no, taking on more than you should, or feeling like you have to earn your place in people's lives? That's a red flag. Jessica was the type to handle everything on her own. She worked long hours, took care of her family, and never asked for help. She thought being strong meant carrying it all, until she realized she was exhausted, undervalued, and taken for granted. She wasn't living, she was surviving. Masculine energy thrives on external validation, being seen, achieving, and proving. Feminine energy, on the other hand, doesn't need to prove anything. It just is. Your value isn't in how much you do for others, how productive you are, or how much you sacrifice. You are enough as you are. Period. You don't have to overextend yourself to be worthy. You don't have to be exhausted to be valuable. The right people will recognize your worth without you having to prove it. Finding balance for a fulfilling life. When masculine energy takes over, life becomes all about doing, achieving, and controlling. But real fulfillment comes from balance, learning to lead and receive, to be strong and soft, to trust your mind and your heart. Jessica realized that constantly pushing, proving, and overworking wasn't leading her to happiness. She started leaning into her feminine energy, resting without guilt, trusting her intuition, embracing her emotions, and allowing support into her life. And for the first time in years, she felt free. So, Radiant Rebels, take a step back and ask yourself, are you letting your feminine energy shine? Are you allowing ease, flow, and softness into your life? The most powerful version of you is the one that doesn't force but attracts. If this resonated with you, share this with a friend who needs to hear it. And if you want more on embracing your feminine energy, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Your glow up is just getting started.